What do people call you? Brian? Boz? What are
Yeah,
people that know you but don't know you? Because, like, I know you, but I don't know you. What?
Boz,
Boz?
Boz. Yeah,
Most people call you Boz?
pretty much. Yeah,
Yeah. If they see you at the airport, Boz?
yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Every,
Here with Boz. You have a boss hat on, though.
that's true. I don't. My wife got it for me. Same with the chair.
Yeah.
My wife got it for me.
Well, for those listening, what you may not know is apparently we're sitting in burnt orange chairs, and I'm pretty vocal about my hatred for Texas. And I would have never said this was burnt orange. I'm pretty colorblind, but I'm not a Texas guy. And I guess you're not a Texas guy, and the first thing you see is you're being put in a burnt orange chair.
Yeah, I thought it was
Like a joke, like a prank?
I thought you were just trying to trigger me.
No, no, definitely not. This is my wife picked out the color in the chair. But super cool for you to be over here. I got a couple things that I wanted to talk to you about specifically. One is I am now in a family. Like I grew up, I'm a diehard Arkansas Razorback fan. Grew up in a small town in Arkansas. So I am Razorback all the way red. But my family, they could not be more pure Sooners. Like it's soon. And the fact that Oklahoma's good again this year is difficult for me because we are not good. If we were both good or we're both bad, that works for us.
Yeah,
But I have like there's
sympathy.
a bye week this week, and my wife's like, I can't even watch us win this week. I just have to watch you guys lose. That's literally what she said when I was walking down here. So that's where we are.
Yeah,
But how intertwined are you still with the program?
very much so. I mean, I go up to most of the games. Spend a lot of time with Coach Venables and the family, and close with the staff. They usually ask me to come in and do as much as possible, even though I'm not on payroll. Hint, hint, put me on payroll. um, yeah, I just love the university, and I love the program. I just want to see it do well and continue to do well. So, whatever I can do to help, facilitate any goodwill, I guess I'm one of the Godfather ambassadors to it.
You know who I love is Joe C.
Yeah.
Who's the athletic director there. And again, I have no ties to Oklahoma except for my family. They're massive Sooners. And also, my brother-in-law's mom is Patty Gasso, who coaches
Uh,
Oklahoma softball.
she's the best. Love her.
Yeah, yeah.
Close with her too. I get to go to the games, and she invites me into
You know Patty?
love her. Spend a lot of time with her. Yeah.
Patty wants to wring my neck sometimes. I love her.
She's the best thing Oklahoma's got right now.
Yeah.
I mean, she's our MVP.
She's got a statue, and she's alive. She's still coaching with the statue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how intertwined my family is to Oklahoma. Like, I am in as much as I possibly can be. So that was the first thing I wanted to talk about. But I love Joe C. Him and I text a good amount, and good guy.
He's done so much for the program. He built it back, brought it back from the dead from the 90s, and, all of the hires that he brought in, and just, working with, the outside donors, and making all the right moves. And, he's hands-on, but he's a great architect. He knows what he likes, and he brings the right guys in that can build that. He's a great captain of our university right now, and he's on his way out. He announced his retirement, so we're going to miss him.
I went to a game in Norman last year. I knew Toby Keith, and so they asked me to come out and lead the Toby Keith sing-along. It was like the second home game or so. And it was the first time I'd been to a home game because if there's a Saturday, I'm either in Fayetteville or I'm on a television.
Yeah.
But I knew Toby and had toured with Toby, and they said, hey, would you come out and do this? And so I got to spend a lot of time there at the stadium. It's hard to say. It's awesome. It's a great environment.
It really is. It's a really special place, and our fans are, it's different because I hear, people talk about fans from other schools, how rude they are, and I've experienced it. I've gone to places where fans are just downright rude or mean, or, they're just ugly. Our fans, when we host, we do our best to accommodate everybody. We let them know we appreciate that they came in to experience it. Norman has grown so much since I played there. It was special when I played there, but now I go back and it really feels like a magical place. They've really done a great job of building out the university, the stadium, and we're going to do another stadium renovation. Some of the dorms, I envy the guys because, I mean, we lived in squalor. We had bathrooms that we shared, with 14, 15, 20 different guys on a floor. And these guys are, they go to school and they've got kitchens. What? So it's these young kids, they don't know how good they got it. They really don't.
And what's gonna be true is in 20 years, those kids are gonna go, man. The kids today are gonna go, man. These kids don't even know how good they have it.
I know.
It's just
I
gonna
know.
keep getting bigger and better.
Well, they got everything's got to be shiny new. It's got to be something that attracts, especially recruits, because you walk in the locker rooms now. I remember walking in our locker room, and it was nothing special, but for us, back in the '80s, it was special because of the tradition of the people that walked in before we got there. So they built the house, but our locker room smelled like dirty jock straps. I mean, it was a nasty place. And now you look at the locker rooms, and they got TVs, they got barber chairs, they got all kinds of toys. It's like so many distractions. But I guess that's the only way you can attract some of these kids to get them to come. That's just one part of it. Now, it's all. I was talking to Coach Venables this summer because they had the recruits come in June, and I went in and visit with them. I said, how do you really deal with this NIL stuff? I mean, nowadays you go to a kid, and they should be super excited, one, to get the letter and get the invitation to come here as a visit. But do they have their hand out, thumb up with a handshake, or hand out, palm up, how much are you going to give me? Conversation first. And he goes, it's a little bit of both, but we use that as a tracker and a filter, because if we do have that kind of conversation with them right up front, then we know that's a red flag, and they're probably not going to be one of our family members.
And that's a motivation and a priority to them. And that's probably not matching priorities of what you want from someone.
Absolutely not from Oklahoma standpoint, but I don't know if it's necessarily a born priority for them as much as it may be cultivated in the house and the family, because the mamas and the dads and the uncles and the sisters and the brothers and the family just unit, sometimes family feels like they're entitled to the rewards of what the athlete, the son and or daughter, has been blessed to do, and yet now they're pushing them. And I can only speculate, but it just seems like the stories I hear with the asks, I'll come, but I want to make sure that my mom and dad, they get to come to every game, and they need a stipend, so they need per diem when they get there. They need a hotel. They need. We're recruiting the athlete. We're not recruiting the family. And it's really kind of crossed over to where, some of the asks are just so ridiculous that you don't want them in your locker room, because it does become, a poisonous environment.
There have been instances where kids have gotten really bad advice and made really big bad decisions. And I won't mention it by name, but like transferring schools, and all from advice from their circles, obviously their parents or the people that are older than them, going, hey, hold out for more money.
Yeah.
And turns out it was bad for everybody.
Yeah, this leveraging, they play a year, and they have a great year or a decent year. There's already dark conversations happening behind the scenes, usually with family. That's how it's filtered in, and then the player, they immediately go, well, I'm going to leverage what I have and what I have done so that I can go to another university. Not because I'm a fan of the university, I've always wanted to play there. It's just because I can get paid more there. And I get that. Football now has become transactional. There's no tradition that you're really buying into. You don't really care about legacy, because you got nothing. You're not planting any seeds. There's no roots. And these guys that go from one school to another, but by the time you look at their career, they played at 4 or 5 different schools. Maybe they've had great numbers, great career, but they don't have anything to fall back on, because once the 4 years is done, and then if they get to the NFL, fantastic. But that ride doesn't generally last very long. I think the career expectancy is probably under 3 years now. Back when I was playing, it was 3.2, and I played exactly 3.2, not by design, but that's the way it worked out. But having the relationship building that I did in that 4 years that I was at University of Oklahoma, even though I left with 1 year remaining, bad advice. place. But that building of those relationships was the foundation of all the things, all the great things that are happening to my life right now. And if I had the NIL afforded to me back in those days, there's no way that I would have leveraged playing for Oklahoma to go play at another school just for the dollar of it, because I was a true fan of Oklahoma. I just wanted to be a Sooner more than anything. It was a promise I made to my grandfather, I think in 1974, 75, because, he couldn't come watch me play. He was a farmer in Oklahoma, but I begged him, come watch me play. Come watch me do what I really love to do. And, I was living in Texas at this time, and he said, I can't leave the farm. I do the whole farm. The whole farm is me. I don't have hands that I, can just, you do this, you do that, and I'll be back in a week. So, and I got that, but, he said, if you're good enough, there's a little school that's down the street here. I'll come watch you play there. So I remember running to the farmhouse that day, and I said, Grandma, where's the school that's down the street? Granddad said he'll come watch me play football if I make it down there. And she goes, you mean the University of Oklahoma? And I said, I don't know. We're in Meeker. What's the school down the street? She goes, the school down the street, University of Oklahoma. I said, are they any good? And she goes, oh, yeah, I think they won a national championship last year. So, yeah, I think they're pretty good. So I made it a promise that I would go play there. I was 70, it was 74, so I was 9 or 10 years old. So that's when I became aware of, one, a plan, but a promise, and something that I could work towards with something that I loved and something I was passionate about in sports, for not only myself, but, for a man that was one of the most important men in my life at the time.
So Barry Switzer didn't have to recruit you hard?
Oh, yeah, you still had to recruit me
Oh,
hard.
yeah.
Yeah, because during the recruiting process, I had doubt problems just about my ability because of the mixed messages I was getting from my head coach. I had two position coaches in high school that just loved me. One was a punter. He was an offensive coordinator, but he was a punter in Texas Tech, and he and I would stay after practice for hours punting, and he made me into a really great punter. And then the other guy was the defensive coordinator. He made me a really great, defensive player. But my head coach was going, you might be good enough to maybe get a Division II scholarship, maybe a Stephen F. Austin or something. I'm going, something doesn't math here, because I'm getting, like, my mailbox is full of letters from all of the Division I schools, from West Coast, East Coast, North, South, all of them. Notre Dame wants me to come and play tight end, which didn't make any sense. Scratched my head on that one. I looked at their roster. I'm going 6'5", 6'6". I'm 6'2". I know I play tight end here, but that doesn't make any sense. I want to play defense. But the stories were there, and so when I finally, narrowed it down after conversations, after really my father saying, this is where you're going, kind of conversation. Every school that I went to visit, I would commit. Like the SMU,
No way.
went to SMU first, and I remember that game. They'd won the Southwest Conference Championship against Arkansas. I think that night they played in the old Texas Stadium, and walked in the locker room. Everybody's hooping and hollering, having a great time, and I'd never won, a district championship or any kind of championship really in football. Just struggled, as far as a team winning went. And so I just loved that energy, and I'd go, I'm coming here. Yeah, this is great. Knowing that I had 4 more visits left, and then I go to Baylor, and I'm sitting down with Grant Taft. Baylor was a kind of a tired, campus, and their stadium was like in the bottom of a bowl, and it just didn't look great. But I looked over at Grant Taft, and kind of reminded me of my grandfather a little bit, and he'd passed away by then. I said, man, I can't say no to Grant. I'm coming here, man. I'm coming here. And then I went to LSU. I didn't commit to LSU because the guys down there, they take you out for the visit, and they took me to some seafood place and said, this is how we do it. You got to, this is kind of a tradition that we do. We'll know if you belong here if you can do this. And so they sat me down a big platter of crawfish, And I said, yeah, I love crawfish. I like that. Yeah, but you got to suck the heads.
Suck the
And
head.
I said,
Yep.
what? What are we doing? I said, yeah, I sucked the head. And I did all of them. And I was on Pepto-Bismol the entire week. And I said, not going there. So, and that campus looked a little old. As a matter of fact, I remember seeing they had the cage out front. I don't know if it's still there, but they had a cage where they had the tiger. And I think I saw like the bones of like the previous tiger, like they didn't feed him or something. It was just like, this is depressing. So I'm not coming down here. And then I went to A&M, and that was really that first place that felt like, one, I can play here. I've seen the roster. Um, it's a great campus. Uh, Jackie Sherrill was the coach. Jerry Pettibone was the coordinator who was recruiting me. He really started talking about relationships with Jesus, and there's like, this is kind of cool. It reminds me a little bit of being on the farm, and being a place that felt like home, and I feel like I can play here because I looked at Oklahoma's roster, and Oklahoma was my last visit. But I looked at her roster, and I thought, man, I don't know if I'm good enough to play there. I mean, they just got the all-state linebacker from Lake Highlands, and they signed him last year. So I'm gonna have to go in and compete against him for the starting job. And I don't know. I just had a lot of doubt. So I committed to A&M and canceled Texas or committed to A&M and canceled Oklahoma. And then Coach Switzer found out that I canceled, and then came to my high school cafeteria like the very next week, and pushes the doors open, and we got 1,000 kids, and we had 3,000 kids in the school, so we had 1,000 kids each lunch, 3 lunches. And here Coach Switzer's walking in February wearing the mink coat. He's got all the bling bling, all the rings on his fingers from all the Big Eight championships and the national championships, and he's hollering my name across the cafeteria. Where's Boz? Where's Boz? Boz is in here, right? And I'm just sinking in my chair. I'm going, oh no, this isn't happening to me right now. And he goes, I know you want one of these. I know you want one of these. And I go, all right, so let's have a conversation. So he he talks me into coming up, and visiting. And at the end of that weekend visit, I guess the tradition is you just go in, you talk to the coach, and you generally, I think the coach either tells you, we like you, we'd like to offer you a scholarship, or we like you, but we don't like it enough, so we'd like to offer you a preferred walk on, or thanks, but no thanks. But before we even got into that conversation, I just said, hey, coach, why are you recruiting me? You can get any linebacker you want in the country. And my senior season, we were 2-8. And I thought, why do you want me to come here so bad? And he just said, because you don't believe in yourself, do you? And I said, I don't really have an answer for you there. No, I probably don't. No. And he goes, I believe you. I believe in you. And I think if you come here, I will pull out what you don't think is in there, but I'll pull it out of you. I'll make you an All-American. I'll make you a champion. But the thing that really grabbed me, put a treble hook in me was, he said, I just want you to come home. I want you to come home because this is where you belong. And that was the first time that I felt like coach knew who I was and wanted to make me better than I imagined myself to be.
Did he do that?
Absolutely, 100%.
How quickly until you realized that Coach Switzer was actually the guy that said he was going to do what he said he was going to do?
The reminder came the first year I was there. We redshirted, so I had to watch. We didn't play well. We were kind of off. Hot and cold. We would win games, but not Oklahoma style. And we had some great players on both offense and defense. We had first rounders on defense, but we couldn't get past. We lost to Texas. We lost to Missouri. We lost to Ohio State at home. We lost to Nebraska at home, and we were 7-4 and eligible for a bowl game. For some reason, we had Hawaii on our schedule as a regular season game, but it was the last game of the season. I don't know how that happened, but I remember Coach Switzer came into the meeting room after the Nebraska loss, and he just said, we're bowl eligible, but we're not bowling. I want to thank all the seniors for what you've done here. Um, Unfortunately, we're not playing Oklahoma style football, so I don't want to reward um, the effort that we had this year by going to a bowl game. We're going to use the Hawaii game as the bowl game, and we're going to celebrate that. But we're going to start all over in the spring, and we're going to revamp this team, and we're going to build this thing back. And while we were over in Hawaii, I remember being in one of those um, big, you know, big rooms that we, would eat, and it'd be a big buffet and stuff. But I came in late; it was like a breakfast, and they had, I don't know, big giant tables where everybody sits around, and I was basically in there with me and a couple other guys just scattered around the big room, and I'm sitting there eating, and then you hear this unmistakable voice that Coach Switzer had, and I hear him go, "I'm going to need you to play like a senior next year. I'm going to need you to be my leader. I'm really counting on you." And I'm just thinking to myself, what a lucky son of a bitch that guy is. And I'm looking around, and I'm going, "There's nobody here." And I turn around and look at him. I said, "You talking to me, Coach?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm talking to you." I said, "But I haven't even played yet." And he goes, "You don't remember that conversation we had in my office, do you?" And I said, "No, I remember it. I just, I figured it would happen, when I was on the field, not like in a cafeteria setting, that you're kind of sparking this thing to life." And from that moment on, it's like I knew that he was trying to be the coach that that started me, that sparked, was my spark plug. And then there was another event that happened in spring ball. I got my shoulder dislocated like day 4 of spring ball, and I think you only get like 20 days of spring ball. So I'm thinking, man, I'm down, I'm out, can't practice. And back in those days, practice was like a practice. We were beating the hell out of each other. There was none of this crap that they do today. Shorts and shoulder pads. It was full gear, nonstop, 100%, full speed. And I separated my shoulder, and I figured, man, I'm out for a while. And here I am now seeing that linebacker that was in front of me. His name was Evan Gatewood. Never made a mistake, and I had a cerebral defensive coordinator and linebacker coach in Gary Gibbs. And man, the only way to get in his favor was to know exactly what he knows, be prepared all the time, and never make a mistake. And a mistake could be as small as a misread or a misstep. I mean, you could read the play right. You could get the tackle for a loss, cause a fumble, and recover it. And because you had a misstep, he'd give you a minus. So I'm just seeing Evan, and he's never making a mistake, and he's pulling away from me, and I'm going, I'm going to end up standing behind this guy for the next 3 years. And I remember going into the training room. I said, "That's the worst that's going to happen." And he goes, "Man, it's going to hurt like a mother, but I can't shoot you. I can tape you down, but it's your call." I said, "Tape it up. Let's go." And I remember running out there, and Coach Gibbs is going, "What are you doing out here?" And I said, "I'm practicing. I got to get a job." And he goes, "All right." So back in those days, two scrimmaged against one. So I was running second team, and there was a pitch play, and it was one of those moments that you just have where there's so much frustration and you don't have control. But I just said, "To hell with it. Just put the put the foot to the floor and just pedal the metal and just fucking go, man. Just fucking go." And I shot through the gap and picked the dude up and drove him into the ground. It was one of those hits where everybody on the sidelines goes, "Ooh, ah, God, yeah!" And then all of a sudden I hear Coach Switch, "Who the hell was that?" And he's pulling guys off, and he sees me on the bottom of the pile. He goes, "Bosworth, I knew it. That's what we got to do. That's that guy. That's our guy." And I'm going, "Holy fuck! All you got to do is run around here like a fucking maniac, just without care of your body, just fucking go." So that kind of was the instigation of, I know the formula. Play it like it's the last play you're ever going to play, but just do it balls out. And that's kind of the way I played, at Oklahoma, just with everything I had. And it worked out beautifully.
Was there a moment where that insecure kid from high school who didn't know if he belonged or was good enough, was there a moment where that flipped to, okay, I'm now either super secure or like I do, I will mask insecurity with things like I wear big glasses. I do things to kind of create like a superhero costume. What was the switch for you?
I don't know if it's a switch. It's probably like a dimmer. It happened during the first year that I played. So in '84, Coach Gibbs was great at this. He didn't let me know or anybody know who was going to start. Our first game was against Stanford at home, and for some reason I had my girlfriend had dated in junior high and then a little bit in high school, and she followed me up to college, and she did one of these, broke up with me like the week of the Stanford game, and I went into an emotional hole. I don't know why. Probably because my brain wasn't developed, and I thought, "Oh my God, I'm never going to get a girl ever, never." I mean, she was beautiful, whatever. And it's like, how dare she break up with me? And I go, what's the problem? Because all you think about is football. It's football, football, football. So that's why I'm up here. I'm up here to be a fucking football player. And so she breaks up with me. So I go into a hole. Coach Switzer tells me, go home and figure it out, and then get your ass back here, which was unheard of game week. And then I come
To go
back
home,
to
for him to
go
say go home.
to go home and
Yeah.
try to fix or figure it out or do whatever. And I was down there for about a day and a half, and then I came back, and because it didn't get fixed. That's a different story. Um, and so I remember laying there on the practice field, like week of Stanford game, and I'm looking up through my face mask um, at the sky, and I see Coach Gibbs's head just kind of come into my vision, and he goes, "You're my guy. You got it, big boy." And I just started bawling, and I just thought, "Fuck, all that work, and finally get validation that that I'm gonna actually be the starter." And then that first game, I was scared to death. It was like 80,000 people, and I'm running out there, and I'm going, well, it's do or die now. I got to prove it.
Home game?
It was a home game, and I remember Stanford got the first, they got the first series, and it was like dink, 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 touchdown. I'm going, holy shit! I mean, it's like 5 plays. I barely even remember them. And then we shut them down from there. We won 19-7, but I got an interception that game. I had played a pretty good game, but it was kind of me feeling it out, and I felt like and I still had a little bit of governor on the accelerator. And then the next week we were going to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh was ranked pretty high. I think they were seventh or eighth. And there was a defensive end that I really he was my mentor, and I played against him in as a scrimmage in high school. And I knew that he had gotten a scholarship to Oklahoma, so I kind of watched him vicariously during my senior year. And so Kevin was one of those guys that I'd look over, and it's like, you're kind of like my Linus's blanket while I'm out here. About halfway through the second quarter, he blows his knee out, and I'm thinking panic's setting in. It's like, shit, there's my guy. I mean, that's the guy that I'm counting on, because if I break the huddle and I call the plays and I look over at him, and we're sitting there talking, we're communicating with each other, and we're spreading that information across the defense. And now I see him getting carted off the field, and he calls me over before they take him completely off the field, and he goes, "Boz, this is your team. They'll follow you. You're the leader. Go out there and get it done." And I just, from that moment on, I just took the governor off and just played like I played in that scrimmage in the spring, and it just accelerated from there. And that's when I started to feel like, as long as I play with that kind of reckless abandon and full of emotion, and just give everything I have, the sky's the limit, because I got the talent around me. We were really talented as a team, but I was very intelligent in the fact that I knew what the coach wanted to do, and I knew how he wanted it done. And there was the one thing I never wanted to do was ever look over at the sideline and see that I had disappointed Coach Switch. I never wanted to see him shaking his head and like, shit, picked the wrong guy, or he's not what I thought he was. So I always use that as kind of this motivating, like you got to play, more than the expectations that are out there, and it just kind of dimmed. It went from where I was use that term, kind of a dimmer. it just kept growing and growing and growing, and then it kind of exploded with the Texas game because that's Texas was number one that year, and my girlfriend had the audacity, ex girl, whatever, came had the
Same
audacity,
one from before?
same one from before. She was finishing up school that semester. She broke up with me to go date some dude from the University of Texas whose name was Duke. I mean, you can't make that shit up unless
Sounds very unlikable.
right.
Yeah.
Duke, and she has the audacity to come over in Texas weekend or Texas week to say, "Hey, Duke and I would like to come to the game.
No
Do you think you can
way.
get us tickets to the Cotton Bowl?" And I'm going, "You bitch."
Duke. She wants to bring Duke?
She wants to bring Duke to the game,
I hate Duke.
And of course the answer was no. But I walked. That was the same day that we had our press. You know, would have access to us. I think it was a Tuesday, and I walked across the parking lot for Bud Wilkinson's dorm into the stadium. You know, and one of the reporters goes, "Hey, this is your first OU Texas game. I know you're a Texas kid, and what's your feeling about it?" And I go, "First of all, I'm not a Texas kid. I'm an Oklahoma kid. I was born in Oklahoma. Get your facts straight." And I was pissed. And he goes, "Well, but it's going to be a big game, your first OU Texas game. What do you feel like?" I said, "You know what? Burnt orange makes me puke. The arrogance and the idiots and the fuck those guys. Can't wait to play these guys. We're going to fucking rip their heads off." And I wasn't thinking straight. I was just being all emotional and honest about it because I really did hate Texas. Just was like all of it. Um, and the very next day, all of this stuff's on it's the bulletin board, front page news of our sports page. And back in those days, they would pin all that stuff up in our locker room, just so the guys could read about the teams coming in, and they could kind of size up the guys and stuff. And then all of a sudden it's splashed this other stuff, and Coach Switzer calls me up to the office. Matter of fact, I went to get to my equipment. Usually you check in and they give you your jock, your socks, your undershirt, and then but before I could get it, the equipment manager goes, "Switzer needs to see you," and I go, "Oh shit!" So I walk upstairs and walk in his office, and he goes, "Sit down." I said, "Yes, sir." "Did you say all that stuff in the paper?" And I said, "Yes, sir." "Well, that doesn't help. They're number one." I said, "Yes, sir, I know." I said, "Why'd you say all that stuff?" 'Cause I was just answering it honestly. He goes, "Well, now you got a target on your back. You better back it up." And I said, "Yes, sir." So it was kind of he wasn't mad at me. He was just like, he could have said, "That's not the way we do it here," or "Let's be a little bit more politically correct," or "Let's soften that tone up a little bit." But he didn't say any of that shit. He just said, "You just better back it up." And that was the 15-15 tie. But that was the game that we dominated them to the point where it's like, this is the number one team in the country? Fuck that. We're the number one team in the country. We just kicked their ass. They know, we know, and the whole fucking world saw us, and the refs took it. So it is what it is. But now our confidence as a team has risen, and it just escalated from there. We had a chance to win the national championship that year had we beaten Washington in the Orange Bowl, but we went down there, we got distracted, and we lost sight of focus for a second because I think we got so excited that we knocked off a number one Nebraska in Nebraska to get to the Orange Bowl and win the Big 8 championship again. That was the first time that Oklahoma had done that in the previous four years. So I think the energy and excitement of doing that, and then we got to the Orange Bowl, and we thought, that's Washington. We'll beat these guys, and we didn't. We just failed, made too many mistakes, and we didn't realize we left the national championship on the field because that year they gave it to BYU, beating a 6-5 Michigan in a Holiday Bowl, and had we won that game, it had either been a split or we had won it outright. But we did learn a lesson about the opportunities that you get like that are very rare and far between. And don't ever miss that opportunity again. And we made sure we didn't do that following year when we went to play Penn State in '85.
Did you ever feel while in college famous more so than just on campus, or was it extremely insulated?
It got to the point where I felt kind of famous, yeah. because every school that we would go to on the road, all of their players, and even when we got to when we played in the Orange Bowl, I remember Washington's players they'd get us together on these little Orange Bowl like trips and stuff, and we were on some cruise and I think that's when it first hit me. Um, all of the players from Washington were going, "Hey man, hey boss, man, I'm gonna get a picture with you."
Mm.
And they gave us those little Kodak cameras and stuff. I guess is like the little freebie stuff that they would give you in the swag bag. And I'm thinking, is this weird? Why am I taking pictures with the opposing team? I don't know how my teammates are going to feel about that. But my teammates were also, um, they they kind of enjoyed the ride too because, you know, I would just say shit because I felt like we were good enough we could back it up, and it was just all organic. I wasn't doing it to like market myself. I was just living my best life in the best you know school possible, and everything was working. All the stars were aligning. Um, so I was along for the roller coaster ride, but I was bringing everybody along with me, and we were all having such a blast. And then it just kind of everywhere we went, we at the end of the game, the cheerleaders would come over. Hey, we want to get a picture, and I'm going, I don't sing, I don't dance, I just play football. We're really good. I'm not as good without these guys, but it just seemed like all the notoriety was coming down on me. I mean, I helped a little bit because I cut my hair weird. I didn't think it was weird. I just cut it because my old man wouldn't let me cut it in high school, and I was just like, well, he's not, here now, so I can do whatever I want to. So
That wasn't like a big statement when you cut your hair the first time, like to the world.
no, I mean it was more of a fuck you to my dad
Yeah.
because my dad was like, you're not cutting your hair. I pay $7 to get that bowl cut, and that's the cut you're getting. I said, but Dad, everybody in this, in high school right before fall ball, they all go get their hair buzzed, and he's like, well, you're not doing that. You're going to get your bowl cut, and that's what you're getting. So I mean, my dad was one of those you live by his rules or you don't live, and I appreciated that. I mean, I would rather have a dad that was that way than a dad who was trying to be my friend because I see the consequences of parents trying to be their kids' friends instead of their parents, and they're not supposed to be their friends. They're supposed to be there to make them hate life so they can get the hell out of the house and grind their own foundation and build their own house with the tools of hard love, tough love, And I thank God for that kind of relationship. I mean, I wish he was a little more warm and fuzzy and happy, but I know that that was what he was capable of. He gave me as much as he had, and it was what it was. I wish it was more, but I appreciate what I did get from him. But it all of the stuff that really happened really was it just really happened organically. I remember when we were going to the Orange Bowl that first year, I went and got the haircut. I want to say I got that haircut about halfway through the season. It was after I know it was after the Texas game because I've seen pictures of with me with just long scraggly hair. So it was sometime during that season, and I remember going to the Orange Bowl. I asked the girl, I said, "I used to be a towhead. I'd love to be a towhead again. Can you do that?" And she goes, "Yeah, just sit down." And we were leaving that day to go on the bus to the plane to get to go to Miami, and I was already packed, so I had made the appointment, so I could get trimmed up nice and clean, and then get on the bus and then go. And back in those days, if you missed a bus, you're paying your own way. I mean, they might be upset with you, but to get down there, you got to pay your own way. And I'm sure you'd have to get up and do some stadium stairs at 5:30 in the morning. But I remember sitting in the chair and I'm looking at my watch and I'm going, holy shit, I'm going to miss the bus. You got to get this stuff off, man. I got to go. So she washed it off. I didn't even look at it. And I got to the bus, I walked on the bus, and the guys just started donkey laughing. I mean, I'm just, what? What's the matter? Your hair. I said, yeah. What's wrong with it? He goes, it's orange. It's orange? I had looked in the reflection. I can't see it. Is it orange, really? She says, yeah. Well, we're going to the Orange Bowl. That's why. That's right. I'm going to the Orange Bowl. I'm just trying to get everybody fired up. How do we feel? So it was like everything happened, accidentally, with a slight bit of on purpose. I corrected it later after I got back, but it was like, everything that I did was like, how outrageous can I push this? How much further is there really a line in the sand, or is it just kind of imaginary? Just keep pushing it, keep pushing it, keep pushing it. And I think I was always like that because when I was a kid, man, I was a fucking hellion. I mean, my dad used to beat the shit out of me to just discipline me. I mean, just I was one of those kids in elementary school. I got kicked out of preschool.
No
Yeah,
way.
that's why I had to go to Oklahoma all the time in the summertime because my mom and dad worked, and I was just so freaking mean that they asked me, "Please don't bring your son back here. Man, we can't. We can't. He's destructive. He beats up everybody. He's a bully. Da 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 da." And even though my dad would discipline me, it didn't really fix anything. But they finally said, well, and if they left me at home when they tried to do that, they left me at home with the girls, my sisters. I'd beat the hell out of them. I'd chase them around. I'd beat them with my whip. I'd beat them to the point where they'd have to lock themselves in the bathroom so I had access to all the food in the kitchen. Um, because they would eat all the stuff that I wanted to eat. And they were older than I was, so it was easy to punch them, and I could catch them because they were slow. But it just got to the point where we got to get rid of him in the summertime because he's going to tear the house down. And so back in those days, they just stuck me on a Trailways bus. Nobody would do that to a kid nowadays. You
Yeah.
stick a little 5-year-old on a Trailways bus by himself, and your grandma and granddad, they'll pick you up at the bus station. Okay,
They'll
all
be
right,
there to receive
cool,
you.
you'll be there.
Yeah.
And then I was on the farm, by myself for 3 months, and then. But that was such a peaceful time in my life. But every time I would come back, the chaos would start. I'd go to elementary school. I was in the principal's office daily, sometimes multiple times a day, for doing something disruptive in the classroom. And it got to the point where I just walk in and say, "Hey, Mr. Hewitt, just bend over and assume the position." And he'd get the paddle out of the closet, and he'd whip my ass 2 3 times, and I'd go back and I'd say, "I'll see you later this afternoon." I remember beating my girlfriend at the time over the head with my metal lunchbox because I liked her. That was the way I expressed the way I liked her. She didn't like it that much. But I was just one of those kids that I had like a Tasmanian devil that lived inside me, and I couldn't control the energy, so it came out in waves of violence. So yeah, the only way that I could figure out how to, there was a man in junior high school. My father was my coach in every sport that I did when I was young, so he controlled all of it. So I felt like I can get away with anything because there was really no consequences. But at some point in time, your dad can't be your coach, and now you're transitioning into a school. And there was a school, it was called Sam Houston Junior High School, and it was going in from sixth grade to seventh grade. Seventh grade was the first year that was going to be school sponsored sports, and it was that going coming out of sixth grade, going into seventh grade that spring before going into summer, and the guy that was in charge of all the sports calls me into his office, and he goes, "Look, I understand you're a great athlete. I read the papers. People talk. I see it. Unfortunately, you're not invited to participate in sports at Sam Houston." And I go, "Why?" And he goes, "Because you're a disruptor. You're in Mr. Stenson's office every day. You're a class bully. The teachers tell me you're a class clown. You're constantly disrupting class. Your grades aren't very good. So I can't reward having the blessing of being involved in sports because it really is it's an invitation to do this. It's not a privilege to play. So I'm sorry, I can't let you expose your poison onto the players that are out here that have the right to play." And I remember going home that night and going, "Oh my God, my dad's gonna kill me.
Mm.
He's gonna beat the hell out of me. How am I gonna tell him that?" Uh, that's almost worse than getting expelled because at least you can go back. And that was the first night I remember laying in bed and then praying, um, God, I don't know what is wrong with me. I need your help because I don't want to lose the one thing that I love more than anything. And if you can just settle me down, point me in the right direction, fix me. I don't know what the hell's wrong with me, but please fix me. And I remember going to Coach Graves. What a great name to end a career. Coach Graves' office and say, hey, give me a chance. Give me one chance. For the rest of the trimester, you won't see me at Stinson's office. I'll be the teacher's pet. I'll break up all the fights at the bike rack because I'm the one that's starting them anyway. Um, and I'll get on the honor roll. And he goes, all right, if I don't hear one bad thing the rest of the year, I'll invite you to football next year. And from that moment on, there was like a calm that came over me because there was a purpose that I had, to yet achieve. But the plan was follow the plan so that you can achieve your purpose. And from that moment on, it was like, okay, life kind of straightened up a little bit.
I got 3 final questions for you. At Oklahoma, did you ever start to get heat from opposing fans? Were they booing you ever?
Yeah, yeah. Of course, that's part of the course. But I kind of took that as I'm doing my job because when you're a linebacker, your job is to disrupt and destroy anyway. So, getting into the head of whatever player on the other side was the most important thing I could do early and often during the course of a game. But getting into the heads of the fans just made me realize that I must be doing a really good job if they're using their energy to call me out, boo me, whatever, call me names, throw stuff at me. We were in Colorado one year, and I remember that game well because they were going to kick me out. They actually did try to kick me out because I used to write stuff on my shoes, and the referees came over and said, if Boz has anything written on his shoes, we're throwing him out of the game. And of course, I already had stuff written on my shoes during warm up. So right before the game started, Coach Switzer comes over to me. You got to cover all that stuff up. They're going to kick you out of the game. And I'm going, what? We're leaving the locker room now, right now, to go to the field. So I had the equipment managers grab a bunch of markers, little Sharpies, and just cover it all up. And first play of the game, they throw the flag. Boz is out. And coach is going, what are you talking about? Said, Coach, we told you if he's got anything written on his shoes. He doesn't have anything written on his shoes. His shoes are black. We're playing Nebraska next week. We want to see what it's going to look like when we wear black shoes, and that's our model. And they go, okay, he can play. So halfway through that game, I'd made a couple of plays on their side, and I gave him one of these little FU, to the stands.
After like a sack or a play?
Yeah,
like on the field you did that?
On the field. And it was, of course, it was late. It was like in mid-November, so it was cold up there. And one of plenty of their student section were throwing frozen bottles down and trying to hit me with it. And they missed me, and they hit one of their own cheerleaders in the back of the head, and they had to cart her off the field. And we won that game 28-0, but they pulled me out like in the fourth quarter, and I'm standing on the sideline, and I'm standing next to Coach Switzer, and all of a sudden some shit's coming down, and he looks over at me. He goes, "Don't stand next to me; you could get me killed." Coach, man, I just wanted to say thank you for stepping up and taking up for me. And he goes, "Yeah. Don't worry about that, but just get the hell away from me. Those damn communists up in Indiana, they got it out for you, man. You got to be careful with those guys." And that spurned the whole T-shirt thing in Miami. But everywhere I went, I knew that the fans both loved me and they hated me. But it really made me feel good because I felt like if that's the case, I must be doing not only my job right, but I must be doing it very, very well.
I want to talk about the T-shirt thing. So just a brief story from my career. I'd lived in Austin for a long time. I'd built my own company. Nobody really wanted to syndicate my show, so I did it myself, kind of a different way. Came here, was very disliked, felt very disliked. And the only thing that I could figure out how to do was kind of reverse engineer. I knew I was good enough,
Mhm.
but I knew I was very different and it was going to be hard to get people to accept me. So I went and I paid like $12,000 for two of the biggest billboards in Nashville, massive billboards that said, "Go away, Bobby Bones." And there was nothing else on them. I didn't say it was me. I didn't credit me for it. And until I wrote my first book, nobody ever knew it was me. But the reason I did it was because big letters, "Go away, Bobby Bones." People were going to agree with it, or they were going to go, "Who is Bobby Bones?" Or they were going to go like, "No, I got his back."
Yeah.
That's all from you. I
Really?
so when I watched your documentary, I was in a really bad place because I was like, this is going terribly.
Yeah.
And I watched your 30 for 30 and you were talking about the t-shirts and how you would make anti-boss t-shirts.
Yeah.
That inspired me to do what has been the biggest thing in my career was to reverse what people normally do.
Yeah.
So I created all of this negative to create the positive. And I've never you and I have never talked, but that story is so instrumental in like my career. You doing that motivated me and inspired me to do that.
Well, fans are super important. Both the fans that love you and the fans that love you that hate you. You need them both. It's always nice to have fans that just adore you and have none that hate you. But all the haters out there make the fans that love you dig in deeper and ask questions. Why do you hate him? Why do you hate him so much? And it starts conversations. And I think now that back when I was young, I look back on myself as a younger person, and I was an asshole, no question. I didn't like me, um, and now I look at where I'm at now, and the person that I've been blessed to be, and now born again, and have a relationship with Jesus, and really know the impact. Because I still scratch my head. I'm in awe that here we are 40 years later, and we're talking about something that occurred 40 years ago, and yet the impact that people have. And I can't understand it because it's not my impact, it's their impact. But they talk with such reverence and emotion, and it's something deep inside that I'm honored that whatever it is that I did allowed them to free themselves and have confidence to do whatever it was that they were afraid or in doubt of, much like I had to go through. I think we all go through doubt. We all have, these things in our souls that go, "You're not good enough. You can't do that. You're not capable. No one's going to love you. You're not likable." Whatever it is, um, and if you really just kind of stop and grind on it and work on it and believe in yourself and have people, but I think you got to be a genuine person. You can't be fake. And that was one of the things as much of an asshole I was back in those days, I wasn't fake. I wasn't faking it to be that. I was just genuinely being that person in that moment. Now, do I want to be that person for the rest of my life? No, because that person is unsustainable. I really only wanted to be that person for the 60 minutes I was on the football field. That was really the boss. Once I got away from that, I could just be Brian. And Brian's really just, I'm a quiet kid that just, I'm a Pisces, so I'm full of emotion. I care about what people think. I care about how I interact with people. I don't ever want to like be, I'm around actors all the time. That's like, they're just conceited and they're full of themselves and they have these expectations that everybody should do this for them or that for them or I don't want. It's like, dude, get up and do it yourself. Like mow your own damn yard. I mean, if you got the skills, mow your damn yard. Don't pay somebody to mow your yard. You're never too big to go dig a freaking hole in your yard and plant a plant. Do shit that nobody else wants to do because one day you're not going to be able to do it. You're going to wish, man, I wish I had done it. So just live your life authentically, but be kind to people and and care about what impacts them, And if it's something that you've done for them, appreciate the hell out of it because that was a blessing that God gave me that I then passed on to them. I didn't know that at the time. And it wasn't until I got saved March 3rd, 2013, when it all came to back, and the pastor said, "Now you can't keep this a secret." I go, "Keep what a secret?" All the things that you've been ashamed of, don't be ashamed of them. Talk about them, because you don't know, your journey is going to impact people in a way that will change their lives, and you won't know it, but and they probably won't tell you, but they're going to see or hear something that resonates in their heart and their mind and their soul, that it suddenly wakes them up and go, "Huh, I have value. I am valuable. I am important, and I can do something with my life. It's not, I'm just not living and breathing and walking until the day I die. There's a purpose for me."
That's good. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that what you did then influenced and affected my career, like the strategy of it.
Yeah,
Even
look what you built. You got this great stuff.
I do got a nice house. I appreciate
You
that.
did. It's
Yeah.
got a great house. But I think, keep this in mind. There are no U-Hauls that go to heaven. You can't ride or rent this stuff upstairs. So the greatest gift that you're going to have is the love and hope in your heart, that you don't, that one, you get to cherish and hold, but then you get to give that away to the people you love the most, your wife, your new baby that's coming, the people that you work with. You appreciate the energy and effort that they give, the supporters, the people that love you, your fans, and the ones that hate you, that looked at that sign and go, "Who the hell's Bobby?
We
Who's Bobby?
agree. He should go away.
He should go
Yes.
away."
Yeah.
No, I want to know what he's got to say, because if 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 he's that good, he must have something like Charlie Kirk. I mean, the dude was probably, I'm not exaggerating. He's probably the most Christ-like person that we've had on this planet for the last 2,000 plus years, and we just lost him. Now we know the impact of why he's gone and what we're going to miss, but we'll always hear his words because we've videotaped it. And now we really appreciate and are heartbroken that we've lost somebody that was so eternally valuable to humanity, and yet now we get to celebrate him. And that's how fast life can change. So I just, I appreciate any and all the things that happened to me, but I'm just a small little dust, with all the other stuff that's happening in the important part, of this planet.
All right. Final question. I loved Stone Cold as a kid. Do you watch your acting tape much like you would watch a game film to see what you can do better?
Yeah, yeah, and I actually use, because when I first went into acting, it was like I went in kicking and screaming. I had no desire at all to be an actor. It was my agent's, dream. He wanted to be an agent that had a player that transitioned into Hollywood, and we had that conversation before I signed with him. I said, I don't really care. I'm not interested in that. If you want to, pursue that, I just want to play. And so, I thought I was going to be playing for 10 years, and then boom, it's over in 3 years. And I go into a hole. And the next thing I know, he's calling me up, and you got to get back here. We got a movie. I'm going, dude, what are you talking about? I'm not doing a movie. I have no clue what to do in a movie. No, don't stick me in that. That's the most uncomfortable thing I can then I'm going to be fully exposed as a fraud. I do not want to do that. I'm not trained. I don't want to do any of it. And Michael Douglas, who was one of the producers on the film, called me up and he said, "Look, I know where you're at. You're down, you're depressed. We got to build it back. We're gonna do it together. Trust me. I won't put you out there until we feel like you're ready. You're gonna have all the support that you're gonna need around you. Just just come back and let's rebuild your life. Your life is not over at 22." And I took those words of advice and said, "You know what? I'm gonna look at acting much like it's a football team, and you got to train for it, and you got to work out for it, and you got to practice, and you got to do things like when you're playing football. It's not, you don't just show up on game day. The hours, weeks, months, the prep that you put in, all of the stuff that you do extra when eyes aren't watching, and you're doing the work because that's the right thing to do. That's when your growth actually happens. Not when you get a sheet. Here's your weight workout, and you go in there and do just that, and you walk away. No, it's that plus you do this and more and more and more, because that's where your growth actually happens. So I looked at it like that's how I got here, that's how I'm gonna try to conquer this new, this new thing that's gonna, I guess now involve my life. Maybe that will fill the hole that's now in my life. And I approached it with that mindset, and I treat everybody on the set the same way I would treat guys on the team. And it's just, you got a head coach, he's your director. You got the cast, they're the guys you play with. You got the guys behind the scenes, the taping your equipment managers, and those are the guys that are holding the camera and putting you in focus. There's rules and regulations. You got to be on time. You got to be you got to be appreciative. All of it, and it's all part of it. And the fact that I remember when I was a kid, I used to ride motorcycles all the time. I was a dirt bike rider, and my dad had a bike, and I remember I stole his bike one day when he was at work, because these two girls that were cute called me up. Hey, we want to go to stop and go get some food. All right, I'll come pick you up on a motorcycle. And I picked both of them. I had two girls on the back of the bike, and I'm going down the street. I'm like 14 years old, 13. I was in high school. I think I was 15 years old, right before I got my license. And there was a truck that was in front of me, and instead of just stopping and waiting for him, I just decided to go around him, and he ended up turning into me, and I stayed on the bike. One chick, flew off, and the other chick, was staying. But I crushed my entire foot, and my dad was like, "You're gonna miss football." I remember being in the hospital screaming as they're scrubbing the blacktop out of my foot, and he's not. Are you okay? Are you all right? You're gonna miss football. What is wrong with you? And I'm going, I'll never do it again. He goes, you're damn right. You're never going to ride another motorcycle until your football career is over. All right, I promise, I won't. And I never did. And as soon as the football career was over, I went down in Seattle and got me a motorcycle, riding around in the rain and stuff. Little did I know that, the first movie that they would make would be like a motorcycle movie, and there's such a freedom when you get on a motorcycle. I don't know if you ride.
I'm too scared. No. Wrecked a moped once when I was 12. Never again.
Dude, it's such an awesome feeling, especially when you're on a big, heavy bike and you got that much horsepower between your legs, and you could do some dangerous stuff. But there's such a lifting of. It's so free, it's like you're flying, and there's just like it's kind of an adrenaline rush, and you start to, and I kind of started living a biker's lifestyle. And it was just ironic that they came up and go, here's your first movie. You're a motorcycle. You're infiltrating a motorcycle club. And I'm going, okay, sounds fun. I just don't know how to act. So we got to figure that part of it out. I'll ride the shit out of a motorcycle, but we got to figure out how I can talk. So it turned out to be great, and, I do watch, I do critique myself a lot when I'm watching the playback on whether it be TV, whether it be film.
Did you think Fansville would go this long?
No, I hoped it did. I really enjoyed doing Fansville. We were trying to do Fansville, the TV series, for a minute, but I don't know how that would work. But I think it's ironic because when they came to me and said, Dr. Pepper wants you to be their sheriff in Fansville. I said, that's amazing, because Dr. Pepper was my go-to drink when I was a kid. How cool is that? So, it's just funny how all this stuff kind of lands in your lap, and you don't expect it, but ends up being just an amazing blessing. And we've had 8 great years, and hopefully we have another 8 more.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, this has been a real thrill. So I really appreciate the time. Really appreciate the inspiration in different ways that you didn't know you provided me. And so for me, I think that was my number one motivator for having you come by. And then, 2, my family are such massive Oklahoma fans. My family's ingrained in the school, obviously, with Patty. And so I know they're going to love this, too. So, yeah, for so many reasons, it's been a real honor to have you over. So thank you for spending an hour with me.
Well,
boss.
I really appreciate you bringing me on. Makes me feel important, because I get to share the stories and then hear how whatever it is that I did in my past had a positive influence on you. And it got you these 2 burnt orange
chairs that I didn't know were burnt. Hey, you better believe these chairs aren't going to be here much longer after you get out of here. It's got to be weird to live in Austin, though, and be an OU guy.
it was awkward at first, but then I went out a couple of times, and people said, the fans are fans, and I think fans, especially of your rival, they appreciate the effort that you gave because rivalries are fun, especially when they're really good rivalries like Texas and OU are, and fans like to see their team's challenge to the nth degree. How good are we? Can we beat that team? And sometimes the OU Texas game, it goes in weird ways, but I have found that the Texas fans truly appreciate the effort that I gave as a Sooner because I think they appreciate how much I love Oklahoma because you want the players that play for your team to love the team and tradition
Yeah.
as much as I did for Oklahoma because it just makes the team better because the guys will live, eat, breathe, kill themselves in order to get that W, and that's the thing that they're going to remember forever, the effort that you gave. And I've actually gone to a few Texas games by invitation. At first, I was a little nervous about going. I said, "Yeah, they don't want me in their house. I'm pretty sure they're not going to want me in there." And then every time I've gone, it's just been just a great warm welcome.
You still do cameos?
I still do lots of cameos.
Yeah, I bought one of those ones.
Yeah, I appreciate those too because I get deep on them. I always
Yeah, you sent me a 4-minute one back. I bought one for my wife's birthday,
Is
and
that
you
right?
sent back like a 4-minute one talking about all the specifics of the things that I had mentioned. It was the most elaborate, awesome cameo we'd ever bought.
Well, it's because I look at them. Sometimes I look at some of these guys they're on a cameo and they're like, for $500 or $1,500. Dude, your time's not worth. You're gonna give them like a 30-second blow off, whatever, dude. Give them something. They go to the effort of they want something special. They give you specific informations, but then open up your heart and talk to them. Don't just give a message. Talk to them so that they realize the person that they wanted to hear from and see um, is more than just a person. He's a genuine human being that has that has feelings. He's up, he's down, he's been through some stuff. He can give you advice. But more than anything, it's like an honor. It's like somebody's taking the time and they want me to express something important to that other person, whether it be a happy birthday, lift them up, congratulations, job well done. You're retiring, you're going into the next phase of life. He's recovering from a surgery. He's super down, and he needs some encouraging words, whatever it is. But somebody went to the effort to do that, so give 110% effort back. Otherwise, don't do it.
Yeah, get a Boz cameo. It was A+. Yeah, we bought one.
Ah,
It was
cool.
one of the best ones.
Nice.
That's how life is. One day you're buying a cameo from Boz. The next day he's over at your house
In my burnt orange chair.
in his burnt orange chair.
Hey, if you don't want these and you want to give them away, I won't say no because it is a comfortable.
That's what I'm saying.
It is
It's a comfortable chair.
Yeah, it is a comfortable chair.
It's a comfortable chair.
And I have learned to appreciate, you need things in your life to remind you how you got to where you are. Where you're from, where you at, where you going, and what did you give up to get there. So,
Which part of that would this chair be to you?
what did I give up to get here? So I gave up hating burnt orange so that I could sit in a burnt orange chair and have an amazing conversation.
I'm going to say they're not burnt, but okay, I'll accept it. There he is, the great Brian Bosworth.